That Alan Turing, cryptographer responsible for breaking the Nazi Enigma code during World War II, was also an Olympic-level runner, and he developed a new field of biology out of his fascination with daisies. About Theo van Gogh, Vincent's younger brother, whose unfailing financial and emotional support allowed his brother to devote himself entirely to painting. He also died 6 months after his brother's suicide, and today they are buried next to each other at the cemetery of Auvers-sur-Oise. Dogs play sneeze when they're feeling excited or playful. Play sneezes mean your dog is having a good time and indicate to other dogs that their behavior is only play. Virgin Atlantic kept having passengers steal their popular salt and pepper shakers. Instead of removing them from the plane, they placed the words "pinched from Virgin Atlantic" at the bottom. The shakers then became dinner table conversation pieces and free advertisement. That cats are not nocturnal or diurnal, they are crepuscular, a circadian rhythm where they are most active during dusk or dawn low light hours. Tommy Davidson, comedian and actor from In Living Color, was abandoned in a pile of trash at 18 months old. He was rescued and adopted by a white family. That songwriter Joni Mitchell only released a greatest hits album, Hits, on the condition that she released a Mrs. album to go with it. Terminal lucidity is the brief return of mental clarity or memory right before death in people who suffer from severe dementia and other neurological disorders. That the Aboriginal people of Australia have occupied the land for more than 60,000 years. That Harry Houdini had skepticism of anything mystical and had intense anger at miracle workers, spiritualists, and mediums that preyed on vulnerable people. Queen Elizabeth has an official shoe wearer who breaks in her shoes so they don't give her blisters. In 2011, a couple from Florida turned the tables and received a judgment against Bank of America for mistakenly foreclosing the family's home and to cover subsequent legal fees. A court issued the family a writ of execution giving them permission to seize bank assets. Val Kilmer has lost his voice, quite literally. The only way we may hear speak again is through a computer program. The Mapuche of South America were one of the very tribes successfully resisting Spanish control, staying independent for over 300 years. They called the Spaniards New Incas because they successfully resisted the Incan Empire as well. They were only subjugated in 1883. While you can go any speed on the Autobahn when indicated by signs, the recommended speed is 130 kilometers per hour. If you are in an accident going 170 kilometers per hour and it could have been avoided at the lesser speed, you will be automatically partially or fully faulted for the accident. There are at least 10 other men who left genetic legacies that rival Genghis Khan's, and we only know the name of one of them, Geo Kanga, a 16th century ruler and ancestor of the Qing dynasty. About the Gibson Nine, an Australian Aboriginal family who were still living a traditional nomadic lifestyle in the outback until 1984, when they settled in a town. The children have gone on to have successful careers as painters, although one of them later returned to the desert. In 2006, William Shatner sold a kidney stone for $25,000 to an online casino. Shatner then donated all the proceeds to charity. That wearing glasses actually increases a political candidate's electoral success, despite many politicians avoiding them as they think it makes them look less attractive. That 67% of all fire departments in the United States are entirely or mostly staffed by volunteers. At least 33 people have died by electrocution from practicing fractal wood burning. In 1714, the British government offered £20,000 to M today to solve the longitude problem which had cost thousands of lives due to a lack of ship positioning. John Harrison, a carpenter, took 40 years to make the perfect clock. His final version only lost 39.2 seconds over a voyage 47 days. In the 70s and 80s, dead acidic lakes were fairly common in the US, Europe, and Canada because of acid rain. The acidity in lakes killed all microbes and aquatic life, resulting in crystal clear water that allowed the lake bottom to be visible. A century before Martin Luther, Jan Hus criticized the Catholic Church for selling of indulgences and church positions. Hughes was invited to the Council of Constance, arrested, charged with heresy, and burned at the stake on July 6, 1415. That in 2014 the state of Alabama paid $75,000 for the right to use the phrase "Sweet Home Alabama" on road signs at the state line. Susan Sarandon, who played a cellist named Jane in The Witches of Eastwick, learned only after being cast that she would have to quickly learn how to play cello, and was told that she would be sued if she left the production. That, for 25 years, Goodnight Moon wasn't carried at the New York Public Library because it was hated by the children's librarian. That Charles Lindbergh's son, Charles Lindbergh Jr.B., was kidnapped at 20 months old. The kidnapper picked up a cash ransom for $50,000, leaving a note of the child's location. The child was not found at the location. The child's remains were found a month later not far from the Lindbergh's home. That in 1940 Hitler decided to change the name of the battlecruiser Deutschland to Elzo, recognizing that the sinking of a warship was a propaganda disaster if it bore the name of its country. There is another photo, taken at a different angle, of the same famous Victory Day kiss in Times Square. Unlike the original, the other photograph was taken by a government photojournalist on official duty, and is thus in the public domain and not protected by copyright.